You know, the skater has been so much part of NHL history, but has come so close to the Stanley Cup. More than 1,000 games, one of the youngest players to debut in the NHL in the early 1980s, played for Team Canada, was once traded for all people, Daryl Settler. How many people can say that? He was a strong major junior skater, probably one of the most in-demand amateur hockey players to come in a 1982 entry draft, and a 6'2", 185 center, basically was one of the best second-line players of his era. And that's not an insult. He can play with anybody. That's what I mean by a second-line player. Now, today we're talking about the very talented and the very underrated, in my opinion, Murray Craven. Now, Murray Craven, the pride of Medicine Hat, Alberta, first came to major prominence with their junior B team in 1980. By 81, he was playing with the big squad in the WHL, 15 points in 69 games. And his defensive and offensive prowess was really respected in his 82 season, where he had 81 points in 72 games, 35 goals. He was a WHL All-Star in 1982 for his two-way play, again for Medicine Hat. Now, in the Hockey News Draft Preview in 82, he was ranked the number 18 overall prospect and the number 9 WHL prospect for the 82 draft. And that's a high compliment because the WHL was at its peak in the early 80s. Now, he got his NHL debut on December 29, 82 against Minnesota. Now, again, he made the Wings NHL squad at a training camp at age 18 with 4 goals and 11 points in 31 games before being returned to Medicine Hat. And note this, he never played a game in the minor leagues. He went back to the WHL. Now, we'd see 50 more games of NHL action in 84, again splitting the year between Detroit and Medicine Hat. By this time, he was dominating the WHL, recording 94 points in just 46 games. Now, to my knowledge, he is one of the few players in the modern era to play major junior and the NHL at the same time. He could do that because the rules were a little bit different. You could play, I think, after the 83 season, you're allowed to play 15 games in junior. Now, by the time he found himself out of Detroit, of all things, it was a major trade, probably a head-scratcher for a lot of people. Him and Joe Patterson were traded to the Flyers in exchange again for Daryl Settler. Now, Settler had played for Detroit for a while after leaving Toronto, and a lot of people felt that Philadelphia was trying to use Settler for another cup run. It didn't work out, but how many people can say they're 20 years old and they're being traded for Daryl Settler? So, now again, at the eve of the season, Craven got the news he was heading over to the Flyers. Now, the deal proved an absolute heist for Philadelphia, as Settler struggled through one final season. Sorry about that, he was with the Flyers going to Detroit. Detroit was trying for the playoff run. He struggled through one final season before retiring, while Craven stepped right into the Flyers lineup as one of their top forwards. In his first full season, Craven finished 5th in team scoring with 61 points and added 10 more points in the playoffs, helping lead the Flyers to the Stanley Cup Finals, of course, where he lost to the Edmonton Oilers. Now, Craven would spend 7 full seasons in Philadelphia, establish himself as a top-notch two-way forward. He again helped the Flyers to the Stanley Cup in 87, again losing to the Oilers, although he missed a large portion of the playoffs that year with a severely broken foot. Now, 88, he had one of his finest seasons, reaching the 30-goal plateau for his only time in his career, and leading the Flyers with 76 points. After an injury-plagued 89 season, and we're going into his injuries very soon, it's a myriad of bad luck he had. He had his first 50-assist campaign in 1990. Now, by the early 90s, the Flyers' success of the 1980s was well behind him, and they were amidst of a stretch of 5 straight years out of the playoffs. Hard to imagine. Despite still playing well, Craven was a casualty of the spirit and was dealt to the Hartford Whalers for, of all people, Kevin Dineen, 12 games in the 92 season. Craven would finish the season with 60 points, second on the Whalers. Now, Craven was again amongst the Whalers' top scorers in 93, but with the team about to miss the playoffs, he was dealt to Vancouver Canucks at the trade deadline. He finished the year setting career highs in assists and points with Vancouver, and provided an offensive boost to the Canucks, although they were outed in the second round of the playoffs. In 94, He scored 55 points for the Canucks and added 30 more in the playoffs en route to the finals, where unfortunately they lost to Rangers in 7 games. He also had the unfortunate distinction on the losing end of the only 2 Cup finals between 71 and 2001 to go to full 7 games. The winning coach of the 94 finals, Mike Keenan, was actually the coach of the Flyers in 87. Now, following the 85 lockout, Craven endured a lengthy holdout as a result of uncertainty over his free agency status. He was eventually traded to the Blackhawks for Christian Ruutu, although he was able to play in only 16 games. We'll get into that in a second. In the playoffs, he scored 10 points to help the Hawks to the conference finals, defeating Vancouver along the way. Now, Craven eventually scored 47 points in his first full season in Chicago, but by the 97 season, he was being used primarily in a defensive role, and he finished the year with full season career lows of just 8 goals and 25 points. Following that season, he was dealt to the Sharks. In San Jose, he continued to be a solid defensive forward, although he was increasingly hobbled by injuries, and we'll get that again in a second. In 99, he was limited to just 43 games and 13 points. Following a poor start and a hernia surgery, he was released by San Jose midway through the 2000 season, effectively ending his career. Now, he holds a distinction to having over 1,000 career games, 266 goals, and 493 assists for 759 points in, again, 1,071 contests. 118 playoff games, 70 points, 27 goals. Now, Craven, as served time in management, he was vice president of the Vegas Golden Knights for a while. He also has significant input on the design of City National Arena, the team's headquarters and practice facility. Now, talking about the Flyers, again, 26 goals in 85, 21 in 86, 30 in 88, and 25 in 1990. With Hartford, again, 2 back-to-back 20-goal seasons, 24 and 25 goals. Chicago, again, put up some decent numbers. Now, I mentioned he also played Team Canada in the big 89 and 91 tournaments, having 8 points in 18 combined games. Now, the nitty-gritty about this with Murray Craven, the injuries, ladies and gentlemen, over his head like crazy. Now, bear with me for a second. We'll get into his awards and honors first, and there's a few. Again, Stanley Cup finalists, 85 and 87 with Philadelphia, 94 in Vancouver. A very well-respected guy. He won the Class Guy Award by the media in 86, again, for the Flyers. He was Philadelphia's points leaders in 88, and Hartford's points and goals leaders in the playoffs in 92. Now, here come the injuries. He missed part of the 83 season with a bruised cartilage in his lefty, suffered during Detroit's January 15 game versus Toronto. He began playing left wing in the 83 rookie season, and again would play the left wing for the remainder of his career, which of course led to some severe injuries. He missed half of the 87 playoffs with a broken left foot, an injury suffered during Game 6 of the Flyers' first-round series at New York Rangers on April 16 of 87. Hyperextended knee in the 1989 season, and a lacerated eye, bruised right foot, broken left wrist, and missed tons of games, not back until March 27. He missed the 89 playoffs with a broken right wrist in a first-round game against Washington. Missed parts of the 1990 season with back spasms and rotator cuff issues. Now, some success in Hartford. He had a goal and assist in his first game with them against Boston, November 16, 91. Injuries again. Missed part of the 92 season with a groin injury in a game against Winnipeg. He missed part of the 94 season with hip injury, suffering a game against Vancouver, as well as strained groin in a November 14, 93 game at Anaheim. Now, in 95 season, sore back, chronic pain from a weightlifting injury. 96 season, bruised foot, Charlie horse. Missed parts of 97, bruised knee, bruised shoulder, again, second half of the season. 98 season, thumb injury, sore hand, strained neck, and recurrent injury recovery. Now, he did play his 1,000th career NHL game, San Jose, on March 30th, 98. Now, 89 season, out half the year with a leg injury in a game against Colorado. Didn't come back until February 10th. He re-aggravated the injury and did not come back until later on, and re-aggravated again on February 26th. He missed the remainder of the 99 season And 99 playoffs, again a re-aggravation of the leg injury suffered during a game against Colorado on March 31st, 99. Missed parts of the 90 season with a thigh injury and a knee injury and a back injury. Now, 2000 season, he missed the remainder of the year with abdominal injury and hernia suffered during a game against New Jersey. Now, the hernia required surgery on January 10, 2000, which of course ended his career. And San Jose, again, was already in the process of negotiating to buy out his contract. Now, he could have played 1,400 games in NHL. But, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but, he was playing injured 24/7. Now, talking about the Group V controversy. Now, prior to the 95 season, Craven petitioned the NHL to be considered as a Group 5 unrestricted free agent instead of a Group 2 restricted free agent. Craven had played out his option in Vancouver in 94 and was still a year away from being old enough to qualify for Group 3 unrestricted free agency. However, because he had played more than 10 seasons and not earned the league average in 94, Craven, who had garnered $570,000 during the season, felt he deserved Group 5 status. Craven said he would not sign with Vancouver or attend the Canucks training camp until the NHL had ruled on his contract situation. Now, Vancouver had not made Craven a qualifying offer, so he could have signed an offer sheet with another team without Vancouver having the right to match the contract. However, if Craven did sign as a Group 2 free agent, Vancouver would be entitled to compensation from Craven's new team. Very complicated, ladies and gentlemen, but if you had less than 10 years in, you were still considered a quality player, but if you weren't getting full salary, the rule could be void. A little bit different now. Now, if Craven did sign as a Group 2 free agent, Vancouver should get compensation. This became the new sticking point in Craven's ability to find a new home. Now, unfortunately for Craven, the lockout of 95 began before the league had made its ruling. Craven was forced to wait until the league reopened for business in late January 95. It then took several more weeks for arbitrator George Nicolas to hear his case, and Craven's hearing was not finished until March. As Craven awaited the ruling from Nicolas, Vancouver announced that it traded Craven to Chicago in exchange for Christian Ruuttu. Chicago offered Craven a 4-year contract worth, I think it was worth $4.23 million. Thrilled with the offer, Craven signed with the Blackhawks on March 10, 95, thus nullifying the need for a ruling. It later turned out that Vancouver and Chicago had been negotiating the Craven deal for weeks, and that the Blackhawks had made another trade in February based on the knowledge that they were going to get Craven from Vancouver. Now, Craven, who had strained muscles in his back while lifting weights in February 95 in preparation for his comeback, finally made his Chicago debut in the Blackhawks uniform on March 23rd, 95, again against his former team, and he had an assist in that contest. Now, again, sorry about the confusion with this, but Daryl Settler with the Flyers wasn't working out. Detroit was trying to get Settler to maybe encourage the young Red Wings on the team to give a chance at the playoff. This was, of course, the Steve Yzerman era, and it didn't work out. It was a terrible fit for Settler. But Murray, for a lot of members of the media, again, you look at these numbers. I'm just gonna back it up to you, ladies and gentlemen. When he started with the Flyers, he was consistent. But 89, the injuries kicked in. Only 51 games in 89. Okay? He only had 16 games in 95, but the toll on his body, he was rarely playing a full season. 70 games, 72. He was missing 8 or 9 games. Murray in the lineup was always benefiting, offense and defense for the squad. Now, what's kind of weird. Some people believe, from a defensive standpoint, Murray Craven deserves to be in a Hockey Hall of Fame. Well, let's put this in perspective, ladies and gentlemen. He started his career with a heavy positive plus minus, but it was Philadelphia. If Philadelphia would have made the Stanley Cup Finals without him, they needed defensive players like him. So that's 2 notches on his side. Vancouver in 94, again, he gave the team spirit. Big 13 points in the playoffs. Hartford in the early 1990s were still a force. He put up some big numbers over 2 seasons, and coming over from the Flyers, where he was a top 5 player of Philadelphia pretty much for most of the 1980s, and help the young Sharks develop as a good, strong defensive team. Again, played to the best of his ability. Again, 1,200 combined NHL and regular season and playoff games. But if Guy Carbonneau gets in with only 2 Stanley Cups, and Murray Craven within literally, what was it, 2 games of being a double Stanley Cup winner, it's not his fault he lost again. He lost against the Rangers 94. Sure as hell, 87. It was a rough go. I mean, Hextall did his best. So if the worm would have turned, he might be considered for the Hall of Fame, because defensive players like him, the Crowders and everybody else, Bob Gainey, Doug Jarvis, for over a decade, he was one of the best two-way forwards that the NHL had, and one of the most underrated. And he was playing in marquee areas, and what he did in Medicine Hat is just tremendous. He taught a lot of coaches in the WHL to coach against him. He made those coaches better. His opposing teams had to watch him because you could stop him, but he'd pass it off. Give you an example, in that 84 season, WHL is not the Q. You get 94 points there. They're well-deserved, almost a goal a game pace. So those 4 years with the Medicine Hat Tigers, where he was consistently one of the best players of the early 80s in WHL, the nearly 10 years with the Flyers, again, well-respected every place he went. As we like to say, a hometown hero. But I look at those injuries. I said, I got it hard enough when I stubbed my toe if I can get over it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a legend of Murray Craven. Thank you to Bo Shees for the requests. Bo had given me a few requests this month about Flyers alumni. We're going to get into next few days. Keep an eye out. But people like Andrew Lippett, Bo Sheaves, Daniel Bowden, all the great followers, I know all the listeners appreciate your suggestions because you love hockey. It doesn't matter it's a team, it's a style or different people. By the way, I've been doing something on the Rangers in recent days after Roger Gilbert died. If you want me to do a podcast on a specific aspect of Roger Gilbert's career, let me know. I really appreciate the Providence Reds fan alumni, because obviously Providence Reds are close to the Ranger alumni. I appreciate when a player dies, especially something like Roger Gilbert, it hits a lot of people hard because they collect their cards, they go to the rink, they collect the posters. Everybody that I know when I was growing up wanted a Roger Gilbert type of player on their squad. So for me to talk about him, I know it must be hard, so I am sorry for your loss. And I felt the same way when Eddie Shack passed away, Tony Esposito. It's been a rough number of years. A lot of heroes have died, especially Team Canada 72. Thanks for listening. Bye.